Hello my friends, Stevie B here, back from a little YouTube hiatus to catch up on some composing projects and just life in general, keeping very busy here as usual. But I thought I would share some thoughts about mixing with you today. People often ask me how I go about getting clarity and excitement in my mixes, and this is a big part of why they've done quite well on platforms like Artlist and Motion Array. I'd like to think that I've learned a thing or two about mixing tracks for royalty-free and production libraries over the years, but in this video I want to focus on some key things to avoid. And I'm in a unique position to talk about this, not only because I've made plenty of mistakes in my career, and I still do, but I get to listen and provide feedback on other people's mixes regularly in the Production Music Academy. That's part of what I do, and I hear the same issues pop up again and again, so let's chat about them. Mixing is that one thing which I think confounds the majority of producers in the early stages, and even intermediate and advanced producers. I think most of them would agree that the learning process never stops. At least for me, I'm always striving to get better results from my mixes. Now, one of the reasons I've taken a bit of time away from YouTube is that I've been developing the ultimate mixing course for the Academy members. They've been patiently waiting for this to drop for months now, and it's finally just around the corner. I'll be launching that alongside a discounted Academy membership on the first day of summer, June 21st. Just wanted to casually drop that. I'll be making a lot more noise about it in the weeks ahead, but if you want to know more about the Academy, that link is in the description below. Check out productionmusicacademy.com. Okay, so let's get into it. Thanks for being here. Hit the like button for me if you get some value from this discussion. Subscribe to the channel, stay in touch. Let's start our countdown with number 5, overuse of compression. This is a classic mistake, and I think it's fair to say that every music producer has been guilty of this at some point, myself included. I'm not gonna lie, I used to be that guy who put a compressor on every single track. Back in the day, it was shameful. I think the one thing that's really changed for me over the years, though, is applying much less compression overall, but less compression at an instrument level and focusing more on compression as a means of gluing groups of instruments together. So often you'll find a compressor on my drum bus, for example. And if it's at the instrument level, usually vocals, sometimes acoustic guitar. But all that aside, I think the one aspect of compression that takes a while to truly grasp is bus compression. And in a way, I think it's the most intimidating because it's the most consequential to the mix. Here's a few quick tips for you when dialing in your bus compression settings. I'd recommend starting with a very slow attack and a very fast release. So overall, for a more organic feel, try lower ratios and try compressing less than 3 decibels. Sometimes all you need is 1. For a more processed sound, try a higher ratio, 3:1 or 4:1, and compressing up to 3 to 4 decibels in the loudest sections. As for attack and release times, I personally like to work with slow attack times so that the transients punch through the mix. And know that as you adjust your attack from slow to fast, it'll start to smooth those punchy transients out a bit. As for release, the faster your release, the more grit and aggression you'll get. And as you slow that release time, it can make things sound a bit smoother, but this can get counterproductive very quickly if you take it too far and you don't let the compressor recover sufficiently. So I'm using a very light approach with the SSL here in this track, doing about 2 decibels of bus compression with a ratio of 2:1. Attack set to slow, release set to fast, sounds great. Just enough to lightly glue everything together. Okay, number 4, poor organization. I'll keep this one short. I know what you're thinking. Boring. Occasionally, students show me their sessions, and it is shocking to see how messy some folks allow their sessions to get. If this is you, then God help you. No, but seriously, allowing things to get out of hand and disorganized in your sessions is how crucial things get missed, like clicks and pops coming from some obscure audio region and, even gain staging issues and so on. So come on, guys, get it together, all right? Come on! Okay, moving on. Number 3, frequency masking. This is a tough one, and there's not always an easy solution. Frequency masking is a common challenge for new producers. This is what happens when 2 or more sounds occupy the same frequency range, causing them to mask or interfere with each other, resulting in often a muddy or unclear mix. There's a few ways to tackle this issue, and these days it's easier than ever because we have these amazing tools from companies like FabFilter and Isotope that can give us some really helpful visual cues. Now, I don't recommend relying on visual cues when you're mixing. Ultimately, you want to get in the habit of using your ears, but I think they could be really helpful for new producers. For instance, if I have more than one Pro Cue plugin here applied to multiple instruments or groups, they can basically link together on the spectral analyzer so I can see where there's masking actually happening. So for example, taking a look at the synth patch and how it's interacting with the muted bass plucks that I'm using here in Logic. This red shaded area is showing me where the masking is occurring. And the analyzer is giving me a visual readout of both these patches. Once you identify the problem, there's various techniques that we can use to tackle the issue. First and foremost, by using the EQ. And you have to remember that the EQ is your single most important tool when it comes to mixing. But otherwise, there's panning or even dynamic processing like sidechain compression to help prioritize certain elements during various sections of the song. And of course, simple volume balancing. All these things help to create separation and ensure each element has its own space in the frequency spectrum. And that's the key to a great mix. Also, regular referencing on different playback systems can give you some really valuable insight into the decisions that you're making in this regard. Number 2, mixing in solo. Okay, this is kind of related to frequency masking in a sense, because that particular problem is one that arises from the interplay between multiple elements in your mix and how they fit together. And how else are you supposed to identify those issues if you're not listening to how things are sounding together? New producers often focus on individual elements without considering how they blend with the rest of the instruments. It's important to regularly listen to the mix in the context of the entire arrangement to ensure a cohesive and well-balanced sound. Okay, last but not least, the number one and most common issue, and it's one that really doesn't get enough attention in my opinion, is a lack of focus in the mix. A well-crafted mix should have a clear foreground and background, with a focus on highlighting key elements that grab the listener's attention. In the case of vocal-driven music, a lead vocal is naturally going to take the forefront as a primary focal point. Supporting elements like the instrumental accompaniment, harmonies, and backing vocals should be carefully blended and positioned in the mix to create a complementary foundation without overpowering the vocal. Now, similarly, in instrumental music, which I write so much of, or in tracks where there's not a distinct lead vocal, it's essential to identify a singular element that serves as the focal point. This could be a captivating top-line melody, a recurring motif, or any other musical element that carries the melodic or rhythmic essence of the composition. By giving prominence to this focal element, the mix gives a sense of direction and purpose, providing a clear path for the listener's attention to follow. Now, having done a lot of feedback on mixes, which is something that I do regularly in the Academy, I can attest to this being a very common issue. And what I hear sometimes is more than one top line or motif idea competing for prominence. It's like two people are having a conversation with me at the same time. Our brains aren't designed for that. We're hardwired to focus on a singular element. It doesn't mean that we can't absorb supporting information in the periphery, but just keep this in mind next time you're working on a mix. One solid idea up front and a supportive structure underneath to hold it up and put it on display. All right, that's it for today, folks, but I know there are many other issues that we grapple with when it comes to mixing. Let me know 2 things in the comments below. What you have the most trouble with when it comes to mixing, and what is the one mix-related problem you've most improved on this year so far? Would love to hear that from you. Thanks for being awesome. I will see you soon. Bye for now.